BioNTech, even Sinovac, okay na. Babakuna ka ba, 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 babakuna ka ba. Vaccination for the nation, no more isolation. With vaccination, babakuna ka ba, 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 babakuna ka ba. Paturok, paturok, paturok.
To all RJ Digi TV viewers, you can also watch us on YouTube channel RJ Digi TV. Just go to YouTube, type RJ space Digi TV, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and get your daily dose of your favorite programs. Thank you for watching RJ Digi TV. You are watching the multi-awarded Radio Bandido TV on channel 224 Sky Cable and TV Plus boxes. Simulcast on DZRJ 8:10 a.m. Informing, advising, and entertaining the Filipinos and OFWs around the world. Streaming live on www.facebook.com/DZRJ 8:10 a.m. or on YouTube, channel RJAM News. To all Teleradio Bandido viewers and listeners, you can now watch Teleradio Bandido on our new YouTube channel, RJAM News. Hit the subscribe button and like the video. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified when a new video gets uploaded. Don't miss out on our dynamite lineup.
Hello and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJTV. My name is Eric Lecain and I'm joined as always with Lali Tolentino right here on the radio on RDZRJ and on RJTV on Sky Cable channel 224. And if you don't have a TV or radio, watch us on YouTube at RJAM News. Now, Lali Tolentino, happy July 4th.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Same to you. You are the one celebrating the 4th of July, right? So
yes.
Let's celebrate later.
We celebrate the independence of the United States on July 4th, which is kind of funny because you know how we celebrate July 4th? We set off fireworks. And it seems like to me, like the one thing you would want to forget about a war that killed so many people was seeing like bombs and fireworks go off. But I don't know. That's what we do. That's how it goes in the United States. We set off fireworks and we eat a lot of barbecue chicken.
Oh, okay. That makes me hungry.
Yeah. So
I want some barbecue chicken today.
Yeah. So anyway, so enough of another 4th of July. How is your week going? Are things going well for you? Are because I feel like, does it feel like we're getting back to normal? Does it feel like it?
Yeah, I think so because I went to the mall yesterday. There's a lot of people shopping, and it's like, oh my God, this is the usual usual life in the Philippines. So yeah. I see a lot of people. So
all right, good.
I think it's normal.
Okay.
For me, I think it looks like normal.
All right, let's just not let those variants in. We got to stop the variants. Don't let the variants in. All right, so Lali, I know we got a lot to get to today because so much has happened this week. And what we do here on the show, in case this is the first time you've watched the show, is we answer your questions that you send in to us. Me and Lali sit here and we answer them and we discuss them. So Lali, let's just get right to it. What are the questions that people are asking this week?
Wait a minute, Eric. I still need to wear my glasses before I read that question.
Oh, the glasses. Of course, the glasses. And where did you get those glasses, Lali Tolentino?
IQ Optical from cash and carry Makati.
Cash and carry.
So,
They actually have locations like all over Manila. You just go to their Facebook page and it'll tell you all the things. You know what's interesting about that? Today I was talking to a friend of mine, and isn't it always strange to me when Filipinos have blue eyes and they come up and they go hello and they open their eyes really big and you're like, oh my gosh, your eyes are bluer than mine, because they're wearing contacts. And
Yes.
the people down at IQ, they do contacts. They do all kinds of colors. They do the blue eyes and the purple eyes and the green eyes. If you want purple eyes, do you
okay.
want purple
I
eyes?
want I want something like what I'm wearing today. I want something like this. So yeah, why not? Why not try? Maybe I'll try to be like a white guy or white lady or whatever. So I'll have color in my eyes. But
I think
you know what? But I'm happy so far with my pink reading glasses.
I think you need to be just who you are, Lolly Tolentino, and I think those glasses look great. And by the way, IQ is still having a sale, 50 to 70% off on selected pairs. So get on down to Cash and Carry and get your glasses at IQ Optical. Now, with those glasses on, I know that now you can read so well. So let's get to the questions. What is our first question of this week?
All right. The very first question is from Nini from Pasig City. Why did WHO declare China as malaria-free country? What do you think is the reason?
Well, interesting enough, it's one of those things where you want to go, really? So China went from 30 million cases a year to 0. But according to the World Health Organization, they have. Malaria is that disease makes people horribly sick. Where you bit by a female mosquito, and it kills 400,000 people worldwide a year, but not in China. Currently, there's no vaccine for malaria, but there's drugs you can take when you're in a malaria zone. But this is not something that happened overnight in China. They've been working on this for years, and they have been supposedly malaria-free for 4 years now. So that's why the World Health Organization has said, okay, all right, we're going to deem you as one of those countries. There's a couple of them, countries that are now malaria-free. I think it's, Australia and Singapore, Brunei, a couple of countries in Asia are now considered malaria-free. But China has gone through some major problems with this. There was a time where the Chinese military was losing more troops to malaria than they were to bullets. So in 1967, they launched something called Project 523, where a young scientist named Yu Tu went through all the ancient texts of China to try and find clues on how to combat this problem. And she put together something like 2,000 different possibilities. And they started on a way to work on stopping this disease in China. And she ended up discovering a way to stop it. She got the Nobel Prize in medicine. So along with what she came up with and all these new modern insecticides, China had, for a while back in 2000, they dropped to 5,000 cases a year, and now they are down to 0.
Oh, congratulations, China. But you know what? In the Philippines, we have a better solution to that. For you not to be able to get malaria, use a mosquito net. I'm sure you know about mosquito net, right?
Yes, I think mosquito net. The only problem with mosquito nets is you can't wear them to work every day. So there's always a chance you can get it. But the other thing too is, I just want to bring this up just because you just said that. China is a very powerful country, and they have communist rules, and they don't have bureaucracies like we do in the Philippines that plague countries. So when they want to get something done, when they have something that they want to do, they get it done. The thing that China has to do now is make sure that malaria doesn't get back into their country. And they're coming up with all kinds of ways and schemes, whatever, to make sure that they don't bring this back to their country. So that's just one thing, I wanted to point out is, when China wants to do something, they'll do it. I mean, they're a powerful country. When they tell their people, do this, and you better do it, or else, communist country, I say no more. But anyway, so congratulations to China for coming up a way to get out of this issue with malaria.
China. All right, now let's forget about that China thing.
If you get
Let's go to
malaria, we will
Ingrid of
kill
Las
you.
Piñas.
That's a good way to get rid of it.
President Biden win global support for tax overhaul. You mean including other countries? Explain.
All right. We talked about this a few weeks ago, this whole
Yes.
thing that Biden was trying to do. And it's all about companies trying to avoid paying taxes. It's like when your country lowers its taxes to keep you from moving your country to another country. So another country, they lower their taxes. And then your country has to lower their taxes to keep you from staying. And before you know it, it's a way of avoiding paying taxes.
Yes.
And, a country does business in the United States, but they keep their money somewhere else. So what Biden was trying to do is find a way to keep companies from using this loophole in order to, keep companies in the United States and keep them paying taxes in the United States. But the only way that he can do this is other countries have to be on board with it. And they've been trying for years to stop this practice and never winning because the other countries would just lower their taxes and then people will go there. So now they've got the group of seven, which is, who's the group of seven? Canada, France, Germany, Italy, the UK, the United States, Japan. They've all gotten together and support this initiative so that these multi-international companies that produce income in places other than where they are located now have to pay a 15% minimum tax. And this mostly affects tech companies because tech companies easily make money outside of their country. But as we said before, there's some countries that are not going to go along with this. We talked about Ireland. Remember we talked about Ireland like a couple of weeks ago? Because Ireland's got some of the best taxes anywhere, so they're not going to go along with this, but so many other countries are. Countries like the malaria-free China. Can you believe that? China's going to go along with this. And eventually, I think they're going to pressure countries like Ireland to have to do it. And then eventually, we're not going to have companies just picking and choosing where they're going to locate their company just so they can get out of paying taxes.
Yeah. Well, I think they should understand that when you pay taxes, this is they use for government, projects. Why not? I mean, just stay in your countries, make money there, pay your taxes, and that would help your economy as well. Building your economy in Europe.
So you're Amazon, and you're not making $1 trillion. Now you're making $900 billion. I mean, I don't know exactly what they're making, but anyway, that's probably way too much. But you're still making money. You're still making, the people that own the company are still rich. It's just, like I said, I mean, this will create revenue in the United States to help projects for people who are not billionaires and don't have all this money.
Exactly.
It just makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that Biden has been able to, at least, it's not done. It's not a done deal, but at least he's got over the threshold and he's got people to support him on this so that, companies will stop doing this. And I think it's going to help the world economy overall.
Yes,
so
that's the idea. I think why he thought of this, and we need to support that. If I am a billionaire, why not share the 15% of revenue that I have?
Yeah.
Share it. I mean, you will be blessed more.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Marites of Alabama.
What are you going to do with all that money anyway? How many? How many couches can you buy? I need a new couch. So anyway, moving on.
All right. Okay, let's go to Marites of Alabama. How true that there are 368 migrant children separated from their parents under Trump still not found? Where are they?
Oh my goodness, we're still on this subject. So during the Trump administration, the zero tolerance policy on migrants, in other words, anyone who crosses the border is a criminal. And in this policy, it had a very cruel side effect. They took the children from the families that jumped the fence or came across the border, and they put them in cages and held them there. And the problem was that they didn't keep a good record of who or where the parents were or where the children came from. And so they deported thousands of people back to their countries. But the kids were left in the cages. So, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now, all right, where are the parents? Oh, shoot, we deported them. All right, now what do we do with the kids? And now the media's got a hold of this, and they're asking what are you going to do with all these kids? So for a while, they wouldn't even let the media come in and look at the kids. They had armed guards out there because it looks so bad. I mean, what happened to these kids? So one of the things that Biden promised when he became president was, I'm going to take care of the kids. I'm going to figure out how to reunite the kids. So that's what they've been doing. They've been trying to reunite the kids. And they have found parents for a lot of them, but 300 plus kids are still lost, and they don't know where the parents are, and they're trying to find them. And part of the big problem is that people go, why aren't the parents coming back to get their kids? Well, a lot of the people are distrusting of the United States now. They think if they come back to the border, they're going to get arrested, and they're going to get put in, some kind of holding facility for 6 months or a year or something. But so, a lot of people need to understand that there's a different president now, and things don't work exactly the same. So you can come back and get your children. And I think that's what they need to start to push in some of these countries. Like, if you have lost your child because you came to the United States and they took him away from you, now it's okay to come back.
Okay. All right. That's why I remember when Kamala Harris says, don't come. Maybe they're saying, don't come yet. They have problems to solve.
Yeah, I mean, that was not a great thing to come out of her mouth. I understand what she meant, but it didn't come off very well, especially in places like Guatemala. But right now, they're, especially with toddlers, they remove the toddler from the parents and put the toddler somewhere else. The toddler can't speak. He doesn't know where he came from. He doesn't, he can't point his parent. He can, point his parents out of a crowd, but he can't tell you what their name is and tell you what their address is. So this is going to be hard. I mean, there were thousands of them, and now they've been able to reunite many of them with their parents. But still, there's 368 kids that are still, they don't know what to do with them. They don't know where the parents are. The parents were sent back to their countries. For all we know, they were sent back to their violent countries, and now they are deceased. So, they're going to have to get some really good detectives to come in and see if they can figure out where these kids came from.
Okay, kids, don't go to the U.S. Okay, let's go to...
Now that's not exactly true. I mean, we don't want to say... I mean, right now, before, the problem was this no tolerance. Like, if you come into the United States, you're a criminal. Even if you're running from a country where they're going to kill you, and part of the reason they're going to kill you is because of the United States policies there. So you're trying to escape death by coming to the United States, and the United States used to be the place where you would go to escape death. Bring us your tired, you're poor. But then things changed, and a lot of people didn't realize that what they were going to do. Actually, nobody realized that the United States was going to do this. I don't even think the Trump administration thought that they were going to separate children and put them in cages. So I think it was a lot of it. It was. Trump was doing a lot of things to appease his base, and his base hates anybody that's not American. And so anybody that came in, yes, they're criminals, put them, send them right back. And so they sent them right back, but then they're stuck with the kids.
Yeah. This is the thing that I don't like when Trump says that, because that really, you can really feel him being a racist also. Yeah. If you're an American, you're no good. You're a criminal.
I can't
let's
get into
move
that.
On. Okay. Romaggio Pasay. Oh, your favorite lady. What is Marjorie Greene doing in Congress? Her conduct is always ridiculous. Any update?
Well,
your favorite representative.
It's funny you should ask that question, because this week, 37 Democrats called on the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy to do something about this woman, saying that she's doing and saying things that are going to lead to violence against members of Congress. And that's not untrue. You may think that is, we're going overboard with this. Well, not exactly. She was the warm-up act for past President Trump's big political rally that he did last weekend. Trump's back. He's back to doing these political rallies. He's getting ready for the presidency, coming up in 2024. And she gave a speech at that rally because, Trump's people love her. And, it was the usual stuff, claiming that President Trump, that the election was stolen from him and that Trump really won the election and he's really the president still. However, she, viciously went after the youngest member of Congress, Cortez, AOC, calling her a communist, and the crowd was yelling, "Lock her up!" That's their favorite thing to yell, "Lock her up!" Pushing for violent acts against her own colleagues. So several Congress people said, "All right, listen, this is getting insane." So they all signed a letter saying that her conduct is unacceptable. And like when she compared wearing masks to the Holocaust, she's just nuts. How she got into the position she's in is still making my head spin. But they have a new committee now to try and find a way to get her to stop speaking on television because they're getting people riled up. They're getting people riled up, and they're getting people to hate certain people in Congress enough to maybe try and come up with a plan on how to kill them. And this is what Congress is like, listen, this has got to stop. And so, Kevin McCarthy, he's not going to do anything because if he does something, she is a Trump person. She is a Trumper to the end of the world. If he does this, he's going to cross Trump, and he doesn't want to cross Trump. He's not going to attempt to do that. So, even though Trump was booted out of office, this stuff continues, and he's he's holding political rallies now. And in those political rallies, they get people riled up like they did on January 6th. And what Congress is just worried about is this woman, Marjorie Greene. Some of the stuff that spills out of her mouth is dangerous. And they want to see if they can get the head of the GOP to stop it.
Okay. You better not have someone like her, because that would create problem in, not only in Congress, but I think for the whole country. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to Elaine. Elaine from Santa Cruz, Laguna. Okay. Why do you think Asians are attacked, rejected, and harassed? Mostly Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Filipino, and any place around the world. Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that needs to be looked at for what it is. When a person is attacked, not because of their political views or their country, their money, what they might have done to you, they're being attacked because of the color of their skin. Now, I'm from the U.S. We're used to this. We've been doing this for centuries. Whites have been attacking blacks for decades. But now there's like this new trend, and whether you believe it or not, that Asians are being targeted somewhat. Last month, a Chinese man was stabbed in New York City for an apparent reason that he was Chinese and no other reason. Now, of course, a lot of this has stemmed from the time that our good friend Donald Trump was in presidency, because he said it was the Chinese people's fault that that it was the China. Actually, what he said was it was the Chinese people that brought the China virus or the Kung flu to the United States. And the reason that the Chinese people brought it to the United States was to hurt him, to hurt his chance to become president again. So, he comes from the school of you hate everyone that's not American. And basically, Americans are people like me, white people. Those are Americans, even though that's not true. The Asian population in America is enormous. But, before it's America, America's going against blacks and Jews and gays. That's easy to spot. Because we're going, it's Americans being racist against other Americans. They still don't see Asians as Americans. I'm telling you right now, even though they are, and they have generation after generation of people in America that grew up, that are of Asian descent. So people say, oh no, that's not true. That's not racist. It's just somebody that was for another reason. We're not against the Asians. They're not even really Americans. That is not true. And look at what happened in the spa. Remember that spa thing that we went through, the Asian spa, where the guy came in and killed all those Asian women? And he said that, he blamed it all on his sexual addiction. Now, why did he do that? Well, first thing, if you kill somebody for a racist reason, it carries more weight because it's called a hate crime and it carries more weight.
Yeah.
So afterwards you say, oh no, I didn't kill them because they were Asian. I killed them because of my sexual addiction, which makes the Asian women in the spa seem like the villain in this, that he killed those Asian women to do the Christians a favor because those women are there to get, white men involved in sex. And that's why he did it, which is, it's insane to even use that for me. Anyway, I think that is a crazy defense. It might be true, but right now, if you do a bias crime or a hate crime in the United States, that carries more weight. So, of course, nobody's going to admit to killing an Asian because they're Asian. And also, there's no symbol. We don't have a symbol. We don't have a swastika. We don't have a rope with a noose at the end. If you have a swastika painted on something, that means you're anti-Jewish. If you have a rope, obviously that's how we used to kill slaves. But what is the symbol for Asians? We don't have one. We don't have a good one yet. So it's hard to differentiate that it is a hate crime against Asians, although we are starting to see that is now a trend. I mean, I can only speak for the United States. I know it might be happening in other places too, but for right now, especially with the murder of all those Asian women that happened last year, I mean, it's starting to become a trend now. And especially since so many people now blame the Chinese. And when Americans look at Asians, they don't see Chinese, they don't see Japanese, they don't see Filipino, they just see Asians. Filipinos look just like Chinese. They look just like Japanese to Americans, regular Americans. When I first came to the Philippines, I couldn't tell the difference between any Asian. Now I can. But in general, they just look at Filipinos and go, oh, okay, those are the people that brought the China virus. But they're not even Chinese. Anyway, I think that is, it's part of it. Get out of our country because you're not American. Yeah, because the only people that really are Americans are whites, which is the most ridiculous thing ever. And I know Filipinos that have been there for multiple generations, and they get, yelled at sometimes. Get out of our country. If you don't, it's like, wait a minute, this is their country. So sometimes it gets me angry a little bit when I think about it, or I have to answer questions like this. But it's true. And we don't even look at it. We look at the ones that result in death. But there's so many times where Asians are attacked where death is not the case, where they're spit on. And say, go back to why did you come here? And you caused Donald Trump not to win the election by bringing your virus here.
Oh, my goodness.
And I hear this all the time.
That is so crazy. I mean, why people should think that way, because you know what? It started again from the leader. If your leader will say something, they will believe you, especially you are a big fan of your leader. Everything he says, they're going to believe you. So that's why, this hate crime against Asians especially are all over. It's not only in America, even in other countries. I don't know why. Even I read an article also in Australia. There's something going on about this Chinese guy. And this is not fair. I mean, for me, I would say that we need to be fair to all. Not only to, not only to Filipinos, to any Asian, to everybody for that matter. We are all human beings. We're all created by God. So let's just, don't hate. Why don't we just spread love to people and do the right thing?
Yes,
Mr. Lecain.
Lolly Tolentino for president.
All right, let's go to Mikey of Makati City. Some of the possible medalists in the upcoming Olympics are being banned for failing to comply with drug rules. But sometimes it doesn't seem fair. What do you know about this?
All right. So this is a problem. And, I've talked about this in the last Olympics on the show. Athletes being banned from the Olympics who are not testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs, but rather are banned for technical issues. One of the big stories that has come out is Brianna McNeil, probably one of the fastest 100-meter hurdlers in the world, is now banned for 5 years. That means that she'll miss 2 Olympics. And she was banned in January, and she will not, she was allowed to compete in the trials because of her appeal. And she qualified for the Olympics easily. She's one of the fastest hurdlers in the world. But her appeal was not successful, and she will not be able to run in the Olympics. And why was she banned? Why did they kick her out of the Olympics? And the report says, and I read the actual report, she said she was tampering with part of the doping control process. Now, this sounds like really bad, like she was doing something like the Russian switch, like what the Russians did with her urine sample. But it's nothing even close to that. You see, the tests, when they give these tests, they are a surprise. They show up at your door and they get your urine. And on the day of her test, she was in bed because she had just had an abortion. And I know it's a tough story to tell. And she says she was asleep and she didn't hear the knock at the door. So she wrote a letter explaining this, like why she didn't answer the door. However, in the letter, she made a mistake on the date of the actual abortion. And for that, she was banned for 5 years. So she's not accused of using a banned substance or actually tampering with the urine sample. And they say that if she had never sent him that letter, that she might not be banned now. She was actually trying to explain herself. So, and then of course, the big story, which I get on my Facebook literally 10 times a day, is Shara Kari, who many believe is the fastest woman in the world right now. And her mother died. Her mother died, and she smoked some marijuana.
Okay.
She was in Oregon, where marijuana is legal. Now, marijuana is not a performance-enhancing drug. However, it is still on the banned substance list, even though many people say that it shouldn't. So it came up in her urine, and so now she's banned from running in the Olympics. This brings it.
Well, too bad for her. What sometimes you cannot get success all the time.
I know, but this brings up another issue. Michael Phelps, the white American swimmer, remember him? Yes. Won all the Olympics. He got caught for smoking pot, but he didn't get banned from the Olympics. So this brings up the issue of race and a black woman, and and all these kinds of things. And I want to just touch on one other thing. Talk about disqualifications and the rules in which they are broken. These two women from Nambia have been blocked from running in the 400 and 1600 meter races, even though they qualified. And the reason that they've been blocked is because they have high levels of testosterone. Now, these women were born that way. They were born with high levels of testosterone. And the reason they got so far is because nobody knew it. They didn't know it. Their coaches didn't know it. The people testing them didn't know it. And then they figured this out, and now they have been banned from running in the 400 to 1600 meter races because they have high levels of testosterone, which I think is just, we're going overboard now. And then, of course, I have to mention before we move on, Christian Coleman. Christian Coleman is the fastest man in the world. He is the 100-meter world champion. And now he's not banned. He's banned from the Olympics. But he's not banned from taking a substance or cheating on a test. He was banned for missing his drug test, which they came to his house. And he was at the store. And, they waited. And he got there. He was at Chipotle, by the way, which is, by the way, my favorite restaurant. And let me just say, Chipotle, it's very fast. You come in, you get your order, then you leave. And he said, he came back and they left 5 minutes before he got there. He didn't even realize they were there until the next day. And so because he missed that test, they're going to ban him from the Olympics, the fastest man in the world. Now, should that be? Okay. Should it be? I mean, is that a reason to ban somebody from the Olympics? A guy that could probably most likely win the gold medal, and now he's going to be able to run in a different category if they pick him for the relay or something like that. But the race that we all go to the Olympics to watch is the 100-meter men's run. I mean, that's the premier event, and they're going to ban the fastest guy, because he wasn't there. He was at Chipotle getting Mexican food when they showed up at his door. I just think that we've gone too far. I think that we need to ban people for things like what the Russians did, for swapping out their, urine samples, but not for not showing up or not being there. I know we need to follow the rules and so forth, but sometimes it just seems like it's getting overdone. They're trying to take drugs out of, to get drugs out of sports, and in return, they're stopping some of the best athletes in the world from running.
Okay, yeah, there's so many things happening in the world, even that Olympic issue. Oh my God, let's go to Bernardo Taguig. With the arrest of the CFO of the Trump Organization, what do you think are the chances of Trump going to jail?
Oh my God, we've been waiting for this for 3 years. The New York State investigation has been, they came out with this thing. It came out this week. The indictments came out. They arrested the CFO. They took him into court with handcuffs on him, marched him into court, over something we all know is true. But Donald Trump was not named in the indictment. However, the entire Trump organization was. You remember Al Capone? Remember the American gangster?
Yeah.
He went to jail. He didn't go to jail for murder. You know how many murders he committed? They're not even sure. Racketeering, all these things that he did. He went to jail for tax evasion. That's how they finally got him. And this is very similar to that. This involves a scheme that's been going on for 15 years where instead of paying somebody, Trump would give them a free apartment or would, pay for their kids' education because he was somehow connected to school. I mean, there's car leases. There's all these things that instead of giving them money, he would give them stuff. And people go, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with it? So he's being a nice guy. He's giving them, stuff. But the problem that they have is he was giving them stuff in order to not have to pay taxes on the money. They did this on purpose. This is what, they were doing. It was a scheme. It was a plot to get out of having to pay taxes. So instead of getting your salary, you get stuff like a New York apartment. So this is not the nuclear bomb we were all waiting for. This is kind of it's an M80 or a car backfiring. So it's not the huge giant thing that we thought was going to get hurled to Donald Trump and he was going to get taken into jail. We've had the impeachments now. He manages to get out of everything. And, is he going to get out of this? Maybe, probably. But this is not just some fly-by-night, easygoing thing that they're going to get out easily. This is fraud in the first degree and grand larceny in the second degree. And this carries falsifying records. This carries, a decade of jail time. And Weiselberg is not going to cooperate. He's not cooperating because Trump says that he will get him off. People have speculated that Trump told him that he will be taken care of. So he thinks he's going to be like one of these other dudes that Trump got off. However, once you get hauled into court in handcuffs and charged with these kind of things that carry these big jail sentences, people think that maybe Weiselberg will flip because a lot of other people in the Trump organization are flipping like crazy because they don't want to go to jail, not for Donald Trump. Are they going to be able to pin anything on Donald Trump? That's all we care about, really. People want to see Donald Trump in handcuffs. That's what we all want to see. But I don't think, me personally, I don't think they're going to get Donald Trump in handcuffs, but they are going to damage the Trump organization. They're going to damage it because now anytime you want to go into a Trump hotel, you're going to be thinking, oh my God, you know what? They're all criminals. And on top of this mountain of things that's going on, Trump was voted the worst president by, they do this thing where all these great historians get together, these, university professors and experts, and they tell you who, they rank presidents from the best to the worst. So Trump got ranked the worst president ever in the last 50 years, and the fourth worst president overall. So a lot of this is going to sting. It's going to sting. It's going to hurt his brand, the Trump brand. People are going to think twice before going to his hotels or buying any of his merchandise or stuff like that. I mean, yeah, the true Trumpers will, but the true Trumpers don't have the money to stay in a Trump hotel. That's not the kind of people that follow Trump. So I think that, even though they're not going to be hauling him in to court in handcuffs, that they are going to hurt him in a way.
Okay, let's let's see how your system work in the U.S.
Yeah.
for Trump.
So far, he's like, he's got oil and grease all over him. He's able to squeeze through almost anything. So I don't think this is going to be too much of a
And he's been doing
problem.
that
Forever.
he's been
Forever.
doing that a long time ago.
You know how many times he got
nothing
sued
new.
before he was president? It's like 4,000 times.
Okay, let's now hear from our friend Ren of Santa Rosa, Laguna. Last week, we woke up to the news about the terrible tragedy of a condo collapse in Miami. Has been there any significant findings about the said collapse? And what lessons can we learn from this sad event?
Well,
Miami
all right.
collapse.
Yeah. I mean, this was, a horrific scene. What did we learn? Is there anything to learn? I mean, what we learned is this should never happen, ever, especially in a place like Miami. The fact that this even happened in the United States at all, what lesson have we learned? This is something you hear about in India or Africa, where they, build buildings cheaply, whatever. In the United States, this doesn't happen because we have laws in how we build buildings and how we maintain them. And this building, what it did was, I watched the video. If you've seen the video, it just pancaked. It just went like this, boom. So if you were anywhere in this building, you ended up under everything that was above you. It just pancaked to the ground. And on Friday, people say, keep wondering, like, why can't they get all the bodies out of the building? Because it's a lot. It's a lot of concrete. It is a big building, and it just fell. You can't just jump in and just pull out all the rubble and get the people out. It doesn't work that way. I mean, if you remember when 9/11 failed, how many year it took for them to get all that stuff out before they could finally get all the remains of everybody out. So on Friday, they found 2 more bodies, which brings the total to 22. With 126 people still not accounted for. And so a lot of those people, they knew were in the building. They just can't find them because it's 16 feet of concrete just piled on top, and they can't get to them. And the whole thing is unstable. So now they're trying to figure out what to do next. Should we tear down the rest of the building? Like, just go ahead and demolish the rest of the building, even though there are people buried underneath? Or should we try and carefully take the parts off and try and get those bodies out, even though it's unstable and it could cause another disaster? What if somebody working there gets, hit by a piece of debris? There's so many things that they're trying to work out now because they just don't know what to do. And then, okay, there's a hurricane coming to Florida. And let me just say, because I've really watched a lot of this whole thing unfold. There was a video camera that somebody was shooting just before the building fell, and it showed water, huge amounts of water coming down into the parking garage. So this thing all has to do with the pool deck. They thought that it had something to do with the pool deck, and it looks like, because of this video, that a lot of this started from the pool deck, which they were about to start construction on anyway, to try and reinforce the concrete under the pool deck. And I think that's what happened. The weight of the pool, it cracked somehow, and then it started running in. All this water started running down, and then eventually the whole floor came down. And when that floor came down, the rest of the building just pancaked down on top of it. And I don't know what to say about this, except that in the United States, especially in a town like Miami, this should never have happened.
Yeah, I mean, look at here in the Philippines. We have a lot of buildings here already, and then we even have old buildings, and they're so far, thank God. And I think it was built, and I don't know what standard, and to think that Philippines we have how many typhoons we have, raining and everything, and the hot season. But for the U.S., especially in Miami area, I can't believe it also.
Yeah, I cannot believe.
I saw the videos, like, wow.
I can't believe. If this happened in the Philippines or in India or someplace like that, in Africa, I would go, okay, they don't have so much rules on buildings. But in the United States, we have some of the strictest rules on building code in the world. And that it would happen in Miami, one of the biggest cities in the United States, just seems almost unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there are other issues, I think, somewhere in California, but I don't know if that is true. But anyway, let's move forward, Eric. We have more.
Get to some other stories.
From Mike of Mandaluyong. how cool is 82 years old woman trained to be astronaut 60 years ago, now going to space with Jeff Bezos. Is this true?
Now, what a great story is this? This is, I'm glad that Michael Mandaluyong brought this up, because this is my favorite story of the week, and I was hoping somebody would bring it up. This woman, whose name, I love her name is Wally Funk. And she is not just some rich person who gets a spot on board the spaceship next to Jeff Bezos, who is the richest guy in the world, maybe. She's not that woman. She was an astronaut back in the 1960s. She was part of the program. It was a program to get women into the astronaut program, and she was part of that program. And then it got scrubbed. And you know why it got scrubbed? Because women shouldn't go into space. Women, don't have the physical ability to go into space, even though they went through the same training program as the men. They were called the Mercury 13, I believe, and they were trained for space flight. But later they were told, well, after all the training they went through, they wouldn't be allowed to go in space because they were claiming they didn't have the correct degree. And they were saying, well, if you could get the degree, but wait a minute, our space mission is like 6 months from now. We can't get a 4-year degree in 6 months. And then they were saying, well, they didn't have military flying experience. Well, at the time, women weren't allowed to fly in the military. Like, they didn't have that kind of experience. But so the fact that this woman waited all this time, and now she's 82 years old, and Jeff Bezos is like, okay, come on, you already have the training. Come on, we'll take you into space. And they're not going to fly up there for a long time. They're going to go up into space for like a couple of minutes and then come back down. But 60 years later, this woman is finally going to get her chance to go into space, and she will be the oldest person to ever fly into space, and it's a woman.
Yeah, why not? I mean, she's old, and she can take anything she can. Especially, she had a training. She's
and this isn't where it ended. I mean, she has 20,000 hours of flight. She's taught, over her span of her lifetime, she taught something like 3,000 people to fly. So she didn't go off and bake cookies. She's continued to be in her field, which is, she's a pilot. And she's continued to, what she said in her interview was she has always, no matter what, she has wanted to be an astronaut through her whole life, even now. And the fact that this happens to her is like, it's the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of her life. Sure, her life has all led up to this point where she's going to go into space with the richest man in the world.
Yeah, why not? Isn't it so cool? Can I join Jeff?
Take Lolly so she can come on the Jam and talk about it.
Yeah, and you know what? There's an old 82 and there's another senior, a younger version. Anyway, okay.
Wonder if she gets 20% off of her stuff on the flight.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, from Marinero of Manila. Okay, Japan launches Air Force drills with Philippines under big threat from China. Is it time for us to be ready and prepared just in case?
Wow, isn't this interesting? What an interesting story this is, that the Philippines and the Japanese are the first time are doing military joint exercises.
Yes.
This means that the Philippines and Japan are kind of getting closer together as the Philippines and China are drifting apart. I mean, this exercise is not so much military as much as it's humanitarian disaster relief. I think the Japanese are flying a cargo plane, and they're practicing delivering the relief goods because, the Philippines and Japan are in, disastrous places in the earth where typhoons hit all the time. So, but this seems like just the beginning of the Philippines developing ties with Japan. Now, Japan also has issues with China, just like the Philippines does. The freedom of navigation. And this is, there's the South China Sea and there's the East China Sea. So I think that this is a good relationship for the Philippines to build on. The China, you just don't know what China's going to do from one day to the next. And we talked about this with Taiwan last week about,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? This is they just flew military planes right up to their airspace. So, we don't know what China's going to do next week in regards to the Philippines. So it's good to have people like Japan, who also are not so happy with China right now, in your corner. And, since the U.S. is stepping up its campaign in the area as well, trying to make sure that China stays in check, I think it's good that, the Philippines has become friends with China over the last couple of years, and that friendship comes with a cost. And some people might agree with me and might disagree, but every time it seems like the Philippines gives in to China, China in turn takes double what they tried to give them. And I could go deeply into this right now, but I think we don't have enough time for this. But some of the deals that the Philippines has made with China have backfired. And it's time for the Philippines, I think, to regroup and to align themselves with people that they can trust. And it just looks like Japan might be one of those countries.
Yeah, we're neighbor. Japan is just how many hours from here, so we better make friends with our neighbor. Okay, let's now go to exciting topic of the week from Emmy of Makati City. What do you think now is the future of Senator Manny Pacquiao after saying this government is so corrupt under Duterte? So many talks around, and what is your thought or idea on this drama?
Oh my goodness, what should I say here? Pacquiao came out and said that the Duterte administration is 2 to 3 times more corrupt than the Aquino administration. Okay. I mean, there's corruption in the Duterte administration. There's corruption in the Aquino administration. There will be corruption in the next administration.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a given. I mean, Manny comes out and says there's corrupt practices going on in the Duterte administration. Okay. I mean, nobody else is going to say that. Manny can say that because Manny's got some clout. Manny's got money to back it up, and Manny is loved by his country. We'll always stand behind Manny Pacquiao. I mean, he's done so much for the country in regards to bringing up the people and how much they love their country and so forth. So who else is going to say something like this? Only Manny can say something like this. And I'm sure what's going to happen is Manny's going to say, you know what, I'm doing this for the good of the country. And then Duterte's going to say it's all lies, and he's going to say a lot of bad things about Manny. And then they're going to become friends again. And then we're all going to watch the Pacquiao fight. And life goes on. Is anything big going to come of this? If it was somebody who was not Manny Pacquiao, Duterte would destroy them. And he has done so in the past. But Manny, we all love Manny Pacquiao. I mean, okay, is Manny wrong? Okay, Manny needs to get his facts together and present it, and then he'll present it, and then life will go on. I don't think this is going to be that big a thing. I don't think it's going to be a huge fight between Manny and Duterte. Duterte will say a lot of bad things about Pacquiao, and then Pacquiao will come out and say, well, I'm just helping the country, and then they'll be friends later. That's what I think. I don't know what to say. I don't know what. I mean, am I going to come out and say that the Duterte administration is corrupt? No. Are you going to say that, Lolly? I'm not going to say it.
The only thing I can say about this is politics.
We got an election coming up.
Yes.
Of course, these things are going to start popping up, and then people are going to jump on the coattails of Manny Pacquiao and say, yeah, you see, they're not going to come out and say it themselves. They're just going to go, see what Manny said? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just part of the game. I don't see anything horrible coming out of this. I mean, I'm sure Duterte will say he's lying, and then, you have to prove it, and then Manny will come out with some stuff that proves it, and then Duterte will say, well, that doesn't count. And, and then, like I said, life will go on. And the next president will come in, and they'll be corrupt, and we'll see corrupt. Okay, yes. So let me go to any president of any country anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always corruption anywhere, everywhere. So this is not new to me also. Okay. Now, let's go to James of Quezon City. Okay. Taal volcano is active again. Danger in close by area. what can you advise to people to protect themselves? Should people really reside in an area close to an active volcano? What do you think?
This is pretty scary stuff. Did you see the news reports on this? It was really scary. I mean, I'm not down in Batangas, but the volcano blew its gasket last week, and now they're on a level 3 alert there. And there's like magna involved. There was water, like boiling water, and then the magna came in, and then the steam shot up like a kilometer out of the volcano. And they thought that there was a lot of smog in Manila, and now it turns out that it's sulfur dioxide plumes that are coming over Metro Manila all the way from the volcano. I mean, this is, they said, I read up on this a little bit because I'm so fascinated by volcanoes in the Philippines. 14,000 tons of SO2 came out of that volcano in a day. They had to evacuate thousands of people because of the gas and steam that shot up out of this thing. And supposedly this is like number 3 of, there's been like 3 separate eruptions coming out of the Taal. So, the Taal is one of the smallest volcanoes in the world. And even how small this volcano is, look what's happening. Look at all the stuff that's coming out of this thing. The fact that it would put a plume of smoke over Manila. And last year, didn't it shoot like steam 15 kilometers into the air, and ash fell all over the place, like all over the farms. It showed cows with ash all over them. So, especially when magna becomes involved, that means that we actually talked about this on the show before, about how magna comes to the surface of the earth and goes past the earth's crust. But this is scary stuff. And even though it's a small volcano, man, it can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's a very active volcano. So that's why they said, okay, wear your N95 mask. I'm not used to that. The one good thing about the virus is we're all used to wearing masks now. So if we have a volcano, we're all ready for it. Yep, but we don't want volcano to erupt. I mean, that is dangerous. So
that is
be careful.
Really dangerous. People don't even realize.
Okay, now let's go to this one. All right, from Julie of Las Piñas. Okay. So many hacking happening, especially if you want to send money, and even your social media account can be hacked. What can you advise to avoid the widespread scam? It's ongoing, Eric. I mean, I'm also a victim of this.
Yeah, let's talk for a second about hacking. First of all, hacking isn't really happening most of the time. If nobody's going to hack your bank account, nobody's going to hack your social media account. Now, listen to what I'm saying, because everybody's going, what is he saying? I mean, it really depends on what your definition of hack. People are always saying they hacked my account. Actually, no, they didn't hack your account. It's very, very, very hard to hack a bank account. It's even harder to hack a social media account. There's so many safeguards built into bank accounts. And I mean, before we had programs, when I was growing up, we had programs that you could run every possible password through an account until eventually it would find it. Now you get 3 tries and you're locked out of your account. Facebook accounts are even harder to hack. The hacking is not the problem. The problem is you. The problem is the user giving the hacker their credentials to get into their account. So if that's what you call hacking, then yes, that is very widespread. Stupidity is widespread. But I have to say, the way that they're able to get people to give them their account and their password is very clever. They're getting really good at it. In fact, I've almost done it a couple of times. You get an email from the bank and it says, there's a problem with your account. You need to log in right now and just hit this button and log in. And so you hit the button, you log in, and now you've just given them your account number and your password. It's the same way with Facebook. People, they hand somebody their phone, so they can borrow it for a second to check, something on Facebook. And then that person ends up clicking on one of those things that comes on Facebook, which sends your credentials to that person, to the hacker. And now your credentials are in the hands of a hacker. And so now they have access to your Facebook. You go into the internet place, and you sit down and you use their computer, and then you get up and leave. And you leave your Facebook on, or you leave your Instagram on, and then the next person sits down. They're waiting for people to get up, and then they sit down at their computer and then take their credentials. They didn't hack anything. They just waited for you to make a mistake. And this is what we have to learn to deal with in these days and times. If you get an ad that says you get a free blender, just click here and download that information so you can get a free blender. That information that you just downloaded into your computer now has sent them everything from your machine. So if you see a good-looking woman who really likes you, all you have to do is click. Man, there's a reason why this good-looking woman likes you, because now you have just sent information from your machine to them. So this is what we have to start to do. We have to start to be smart ourselves. They're not just hacking our bank account. You know how hard it is to hack a bank? It is literally almost impossible these days, but it's so easy for you to just give them your information. And that's what people are doing. You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful. When you get an email from the bank, look at the return address and see where it comes from. See if it comes from the bank. See if it comes from administration@bpi.com, or does it come from some other place? Especially with what I have to say with BPI is I get stuff all the time asking me for my account information. But I know it's not BPI. I can look up and see. So I think this is one of the things that we all have to, this is life now. This is the way we are now. They have made it almost impossible to hack a bank account, but it's so easy for hackers to get your information just by you clicking on their email.
Okay, so that's how it is. Okay, what about the cloning thing? Because somebody explained to me that, somebody can clone my account and use it like as if it's me communicating with you.
Yes.
They call it cloning.
Yeah. So, and we're just about out of time here, but be careful who you give your phone to. Let somebody borrow your phone. If you let somebody borrow your phone, make sure it's somebody that you know, and make sure that they don't let somebody else get into somebody else's hands so they have a chance to clone your phone. Now, we can, on another show, we can talk about cloning because that is a big problem. And people will have access to everything once they've cloned your phone. So, you just need to be very vigilant and very careful these days on who you give stuff to and who you answer on your email. Make sure it's someone that you know. And speaking of someone that you know, Lolly Tolentino, to you and all the people that give us all these great questions this week, we are out of time. We got through so many subjects today, Lolly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all the great questions and all the people out there. So for me, Eric Lecain, and Lolly Tolentino here on the World News Jam on DZRJ, on RJ TV, and on the radio on 810 AM. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at RJ AM News. We are done today. So everybody, please be safe out there. We'll see you next week.
The views and comments of the